All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Can you see my screen, Aaron? Beautiful. My name is Logan Shinholser. We're going to be going through your next client already lives within a mile of your last job site. So basically the whole premise of today is if you are a higher end remodeling company, design build, remodeling company, a lot of what is happening and a lot of what you see is that you do a project at somebody's house for 6 weeks up to 6 months, and next thing you know that you have within a mile of that project like another project or two that are coming through. And basically it's just because the people that you did the job at talked to their friends that live close-ish to them, spoke about their project, showed somebody what the project looked like, spoke highly of you, and next thing you know, you're doing work for their friends. Now, the problem with that is you're kind of all reliant on the person that you did the project from already to then go out of their way, invite somebody over, talk to them about the process that you went through with them. And the downside then becomes if that person moves away, your opportunity to stay working in that area goes away. I was at dinner with my wife, a month ago, and basically one of her friends was there and they were going through a whole home remodel. And I asked them, I said, how did you guys find the builder that you were using? And she said, they just have like signs up all over our neighborhood. And I was like, so it was the fact that like they're just working in your neighborhood already? And she was like, yeah, mostly everybody's like already hired them. We have an architect that we're working with as well. And I tried to kind of give them an out. And I said, okay, so was it like the architect suggested them? And she said, well, like I asked the architect about them and the architect said that they were good, but it was mostly because I'd already seen a bunch of yard signs of theirs in the neighborhood. So we just felt kind of comfortable with them because we knew other people had already hired them as well. So the stuff already happens on its own, but it's more so now what can we do to basically proactively infuse this into our marketing. And today we're going to go through a lot of things that you can and should be doing to basically proactively do this on your own to influence the next person buying a remodel project from you. So that is what we're going through today. We do have Q&A, so if you want to ask a question, Aaron, who's over there, will be able to field them. And then at the end, we'll be able to go through everything. I have a ton of information to get through today, so that's why I'm just jumping right into it and not doing niceties. But if this is your first time and you don't know who I am, Logan, I own CGN. I've spoken on a bunch of stages about this exact topic. I live in this world. I am one of your customers. My wife and I have spent a lot of money over the past 4 years since we moved into our house to do a bathroom addition, to do a screen and porch, to add in like a whole home edition. We've done a lot. So I've been through it both as a customer of yours, but also then taking the things that my wife and I thought were really important and saying, great, how can we then market this for a lot of our clients? And then testing, does that work or not? So a lot of what we're going to go through today is part of it's personal experience that we then added into what we do for clients. But at the same time, some of it's just like looking at data to see, is this working or not working? So all this stuff is just to basically prove I'm not some nerd with a fake background. We actually have a full podcast studio here and stuff. So let me go ahead and jump in. All right. So right now, the idea is that you have a project in a neighborhood that you really like. So a lot of these sales calls that we go on is basically understanding who is your ideal client, right? And the easiest way to figure out who your ideal client is, instead of asking you, what's their age bracket? And you're going to say something like 30 to 70. And then I'm like, okay, what kind of budget do they have? And it's like, whatever. Actually identifying a project that you really like for a client that you really like in an area that you really want to be in, that is like the best way to really identify who you want to go after, how you want to go about it, things like that. And the easiest way to do it is to pick an individual project, right? And if we can identify, here's an exact project that if we could just basically duplicate it over and over and over, we would have a really good business that we're super proud of. This is what we're going to go through, is how do you take this one project and turn it into your marketing campaign. And the idea, I'm here in Charlotte, so you're going to see a lot of Charlotte examples, is that you're basically setting up a bunch of mini localized marketing campaigns around the areas that you want to be in, and it's all because you're doing a project in that area, and we want to be able to do more of those projects. When my wife and I, we just finished a home addition at our house, and it took like 4 months, and it was a pretty big project. And my neighbor, at the end of the 4 months, our builder has our yard sign out front. At the end of the project, he texts me and he goes, "Hey, I know you guys like your builder. Who are you guys using?" And I was like, "Dude, like you literally walk by my house every single day. Like you should know who the builder is." But it kind of showed me that like even just having like a yard sign out front is not enough. The fact that you're like, "Who did you use?" I wanted to just take a photo of the yard sign and text it to him and be like, "This is who I used." But I actually sent him the website. So it just kind of goes to show that simply just having a yard sign out front, while it is impactful and helpful, there's a lot more that we can be doing here to basically set up all these like mini billboards all around town. What we're going to go through today is basically separating out your project into 5 different phases and what marketing we can and should be doing at each of these phases. So you're going to have your pre-construction, so before you even get out there. You're going to have day 1, so kind of like demo day of like construction actually happening. Then we're going to get into as the construction is actually happening, then when the project is completing, and then last thing is what's the ongoing marketing look like from there. Now, when you look at this list, it's pretty long. It's pretty extensive. Some of these things, CGN as a company, we do. Some of these things we used to do, and we realized it's kind of a pain in the butt to do these things. I don't know how effective it's going to be if we keep doing it. And some of it are things that I'm like, look, we don't actually do these things, but like I know enough about this stuff, and I've seen it done enough wrong ways to at least be able to speak to it. So my goal of today is to basically, if you do all these things, you'll be in a great spot. But the reality is, unless you have like a 3-person internal marketing team doing, full-time marketing for your company, it's going to be very hard to do all these things. So what I want to be able to do is talk enough about a lot of these things and give you as many basically gold nuggets as I can to then allow you to kind of think through it all and go, okay, great. What are the things that we could do here? Because if you just do one of these things compared to doing none of them, you're at least going to be in a better spot compared to doing none of them. Again, if you do all of them, perfect. But the idea is that if you do all of them, this is not one of those, unless you're going to do it all, don't bother with it. It's kind of like, I look at it as like weight loss. Like if you hit a diet perfectly, great. But worst case scenario, you just kind of cut out sugar a little bit, 3 times a week. It's not really going to get you to the end result that you want, but you're going to get there a little bit. So that's what I want to get through today. So we're going to go through setting expectations with clients, going through renderings, talking about postcards before you get out there. Then we're going to talk about before photos, door hangers, yard signs. It's going to be a little bit more in depth than just like, yeah, I know what a door hanger or yard sign is. On the ongoing construction, so as the project is actually happening, progress photos, social video, job completion, so having a launch party, doing photography, testimonials, and then doing like an actual walkthrough with it all. And then last thing is going to be your ongoing marketing. So that's going to be like the first 4 parts are a lot of like, as everything is happening, this is what we're doing, really regimented. Ongoing marketing is basically collecting a lot of the assets that you did throughout the project and then turning it into ongoing marketing campaigns. So that's where we're going to go through a featured project page, which we have a whole other webinar on that we've done because it's that impactful. Then into Google, social posts, direct mail, brochures, email, blogs, all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're going to go through today. And we're going to first start off with pre-construction. So let me first start off by just saying expectations at the signing. So when a client is excited, they're most excited like when they're actually signing on the dotted line to make this thing happen. When it comes to photography and videography at the very end of the project, one of the best ways to set this up is by asking at the beginning. I've had conversations with people where they say, well, like we want to bake it into our contract that like they are required to allow us to come back and shoot. But the reality is, like, if I was a remodeler and I said, hey, I want to shoot in your home at the end of this, I said, or like at the end of the project, I said, hey, I want to film. And they said, no, you may not. And I said, well, you're legally obligated to have me come. Like, it's weird. So what we're trying to do here is set it up from the beginning to kind of set the stage at the end. So it's much easier to go, hey, do you remember at the beginning when you said we could do this? Are you still cool with this? So the way that we want to do this one, and this is my suggestion, many ways of doing it, is basically saying like, look, we're really excited about this project. When it's done, we'd love to be able to come back and photograph it for our portfolio. Are you okay with that? And what you're basically doing is two things. One, you're letting them know how excited you are about the project. So you're basically setting it up to say this is going to be a great project, which makes them happy. But then two, especially on the testimonial side, that is a bit of a bigger ask to say, look, at the end of this project, could we come back and actually, do a video testimonial with you talking about the project? That's a bigger ask for people. Most people get nervous about being on camera. So to set that one up, we want to do something more along the lines of like, hey, if we blow you away on this project, would you be willing to, actually sit down and do a video testimonial about your experience? And if you notice at the very beginning part, we're talking about if we were to blow you away or if we blow you away. And basically it's a cause and effect, saying we're going to go above and beyond. You now are going to hold us accountable to going above and beyond, because if we're not going above and beyond, then you don't have to do this testimonial. Now, as you can imagine, at the end of it, you're going to know pretty well, are they going to be a good person to put on video or not? You can always not do it, because if it didn't go well, hey, I know we sucked, but could you still sit down and talk about the experience? Probably not going to go super well. But when it comes to the ask, the biggest part of this is just setting it up from the beginning to say, hey, if we blow you away, or hey, this is going to be an amazing project, we're pumped for it. Are you okay if we come back at the end and actually photograph it for our portfolio? Most everybody's going to say yes. Question I actually got yesterday was, well, how do you know if they're not comfortable with it? I grew up, my dad was a koi and water feature contractor, did, hiring koi ponds and stuff up in the DC area. And most of the people that we were not allowed, or he was not allowed to actually go out and photograph, were like government, like defense contractors that, this was like peak early 2000s. So there's a lot of defense stuff going on. And they proactively said, hey, look, because of who I am and what I do, either A, you're not allowed to photograph this project at all, or B, if you are going to photograph it, it has to only be of this, and you may not include any sort of like personal identifiable information. So they kind of proactively told him up front, so it wasn't so much like him coming to them. So biggest thing on this is just setting the expectations up front of saying, hey, I want to come in and I actually want to photograph or film this. Are you cool with that? That's going to make it all run super smooth. Last little caveat to this, and I'm going to talk more about it at the very end, but when it comes to the photos themselves, we want them to be staged, right? Because if it's very blank, it's not going to feel lived in. It's going to feel very sterile. So we want to have the actual photos themselves staged to make it feel real. Now, if it's a whole home or home edition, like let's just take my home edition, for example, we finished the project. It took another 6 weeks for all the furniture to come in and get installed, because we had to buy all new furniture for this new addition. At that point, what we want to be able to do is understand as the remodeler, hey, when this is all said and done, we'd love to photograph it. Okay, perfect. Are you guys getting furniture for it? Like, can you talk to me a bit more about that? Because what we don't want to do is finish the project of this awesome whole home remodel or this bigger space that's an addition and just say, well, they don't have furniture in here. We're just going to photograph it, bare. It's not going to do the work justice. So we want to make sure that we understand what the furnished situation looks like ahead of time, or as much as possible during the project. Kitchen and bath, you could typically have stuff that you can stage yourself. I'll talk more about that at the end, but just something to think about when you're doing the expectations is really just what does actually furnishing this look like, to make sure that when we get the photos, we're set. Other thing that we want to do is make sure that we have plans and renderings saved, documented. You're going to use this a lot at the end, but if you are somebody who does in-house design, this is going to be, and it's a big part of like your selling proposition. We just want to make sure that we're not getting to the end of the project and then have to go back and find renderings where they are. Just keep them stored. This is all I'm trying to say on this one, is just have nice befores, afters, hyper-realistic renderings. If you use Chief or something like that, just don't delete the file is basically what it is. You're going to use this at the end of the project. And the last thing here is just announcing it to the street. All right, this is one of those like pardon our dust scenarios, but basically all we're trying to do is just highlight to people around the area, hey, look, we're going to be starting a project, on your street or in your neighborhood pretty soon. If you see our trucks or our crew and, and we're blocking the way, just let us know. Here's our information below. Call us and we'll get you all sorted out. There's going to be a follow-up to this, but this is meant to just be very simple. hit the neighbors around where they live with a nice postcard. If you're only going to be there for like 3 days because it's like a quick powder room refresh, you may not need to do this as much. Not a bad idea, but if you're going to be there for a good amount of time, and I'm thinking about like my road's pretty tight already as it is. I know when work is being done, like we just redid our driveway, and like to have that, cement truck like out front, it kind of blocked a lot of it. So just making sure the neighbors are aware. So there's no set like do this 2 days before or whatever, just within like a couple weeks maximum, all the way up to like when you're starting the project, just make sure these go out. 2 ways of really doing it. One of them is there's a company called Dope Marketing, and they have this program called Neighborhood Blitz. We've had a lot of clients use it, and basically what you can do is you can, we're not like sponsored by them, but I'm just adding them in here. If you go to their site, you can look this up, but basically what you can do is type in the address of where you're going to be working, and then under where you see it says audience size, you're able to highlight how many homes should we be sending this to. You can then also filter it down by home value and the year the home was built. So for example, if you're doing, like my house was built in 1946. So, and if it's a 1940s house, then you probably know it's going to be too small. You're doing an addition at my house, perfect. You can then also filter this to say everybody whose house was built in the 30s up to 50s, send this out to. So you can get kind of cute with filtering if you want to. Biggest thing here is really just making sure at minimum, obviously you hit those 25 people that are like closest around the area. It's more of just saying we're in the neighborhood. If we're ever in the way, please let us know. That's about it. The manual way of doing this is just instead of using Dope, if you're like, hey, I'm only going to do this, I just do big projects, I do 8 a year, you can also just go into Claude and just basically I just typed in the prompt that's here. I'll send these slides out afterwards so you can have access to them, but it's just I'm starting a project at this place. I want to mail these types of postcards to the closest X amount of houses. Here's my job site address. Find the closest, make sure that they're actually like a real location. Any duplexes, remove those. Use real records, and like this is just going to give you like a list of homes that you can send this out to, so you can do this manually if you want. All right, so just different ways of doing it, but if you want to do it through Dope, it's easy, it's straightforward. If you do higher volume, it's going to definitely make a lot more sense. If you do less volume and you want to get by just testing this thing out, you're going to do it manually. When I say testing it out, let me clarify. The goal here is not to sell work off of this postcard. So if you're like, I sent out a postcard, I didn't get anything from it, that is not the goal. The goal of a lot of the stuff that we're talking through today is to get somebody to move forward with a $75,000, $150,000, $500,000 project is simply just continuing to get in front of them, because in the home service space, usually Mother Nature does a lot of the work for you. So if it's super cold outside and your furnace goes out, like as a homeowner, you're going to call somebody right then and there to get them out there as soon as possible. That typically does not happen on a $250,000 first floor remodel where it's like, I got $250,000 to burn today. Who's top of the list that I'm going to call, right? This is almost like in the remodeling space, it's like death by 1,000 cuts to somebody where they finally go, okay, now it's time to make this thing happen. And we just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to build up enough of a case that when it comes time to them saying, okay, now it's time, who am I going to use? You're on that list. So again, not meant to sell stuff, really more just meant to introduce you to that neighborhood, to establish that you are a legit company, and that's about it. So if you notice back on this postcard, it's, if we're in the way, let us know. It's not, hey, by the way, if you also want stuff done, please call us, because then it takes it from customer service and being helpful over to, hey, also, if you want to buy our stuff, you can. We don't want to do that. And once you start to mix those two things, people look at it as just marketing spam, and they're going to see you as basically that. So we want to make sure that we're segmenting this into customer service really, and just saying we're here to set up a good project for your neighbor, and that's about it. That's pre-construction. Expectations, get your rendering set up, and do out your postcards, and you're good. Moving into construction, so day one. The first thing is going to be before photos. Biggest thing on these is going to be, you can get these during like the estimate or like the walkthrough, but a lot of this is going to be, and I'll show you in a second, we need an ample amount of before photos. All right, what we want is to be able to then, at the end of the project, when we have after photos, we want to match up the before photo angle with the after photo. And the easiest way to do that is to take so many before photos that when you pull up your really good after photos, you're able to then match up and go, oh, this one's pretty close. Let's show this as the before and after. So you want to have a lot. And if you know in your head, like, all right, we're going to be ripping out this bathtub and we're going to be putting it and expanding the shower, you're probably going to want to get a lot of photos of like the shower and the bathtub. And then that way, again, as the after shots, you're able to then match them up. Something big here is, and this is why I'm saying, like, you don't have to do this at the in-home walkthrough because you're going to want, especially if you're doing like a full home remodel, that's going to be a lot of photos. You know, we want to do this before the crew shows up because once demo starts, that's not really the true before. That's like stuff is already happening. So make sure that we're doing this. My suggestion is going to be with like the final walkthrough, or if you want to, you know, do it with the client there, whatever you want, but just do it before the crew shows up. And on this, it's okay to just use your iPhone or use whatever phone that you have. You almost want the photos to look crappier. You don't have to go out and get a professional photographer to get in here and say, these are amazing, crappy before photos. You just want this thing like this bathroom here. It looks kind of like the bathroom from the movie Saw to a certain extent. You kind of want that to like play up, like, look how bad this was, into now amazing after photos. So just a bunch of before photos, just like the renderings. Store this away. You're not going to use them yet. Here's what I mean. Here's an example of a before. Here's the rendering that we're going to match up, and I'll explain how this stuff works. Here's the after. But now when I kind of put it all together, what you're able to see is at the top, a before and after from a pretty similar angle. Not exact, but ideally what we would have had was take that before photo in the top left, and if you would have taken one kind of hanging back off to the right where the staircase is, where you actually have the railing, and you take that photo, then you would have more of a one-to-one alignment before and the after. But if you look, the before photo on the top left, and then the rendering below it, it's pretty close as well. So you're able to actually show the before, the design, and the after step by step by step. And the closer to the exact angles of all this that you can get to show, hey, this is where they started off as. This is actually how we produced, or we planned the project out with them. And then here's the after photos. That's going to make it pop a lot more. And that's really going to sell, especially if you do in-house design and you're somebody that like has a design fee and you get some pushback on, oh, why would I want to pay for design? Isn't that just a part of doing business? You're able to then actually show them, like, here's a really cool deliverable that you get with design that's going to highlight this. So the more that you can make these things one-to-one, the better. Again, we'll talk about after photos at the end, but before photos, get a lot of different photos of it, different angles. That way you are able to match stuff up at the end as best as possible. Next thing, billboards or yard signs, really. With a yard sign, this is something that is like I don't think people think through a yard sign as much, all right? When it comes to yard signs, the first thing that I want to highlight is the size of your yard sign should be representative of the size of your projects. So, for example, if you are trying to do larger projects that you're going to be there for 3 to 6 to even 12 months, you should not have this small corrugated cardboard yard sign in somebody's yard. Because what that's doing is it's all of everything that you're doing is, I mean, it is hard enough to get somebody to say yes to spending $250,000 and having you in their home for a very long time around their family. So we do not want to give people an inch of giving reasons of why they wouldn't want to hire you. So you need to recognize that your yard sign, and like if it's a big yard sign versus like a very small one, like if it's small and easy to be ripped out, they're going to also assume that like you're not really super solidified and like you're standing as a remodeling company in the area. So we want to actually have yard signs that if you do bigger and larger and longer projects, your yard sign should be more of a permanent feel yard sign. We're actually putting in the ground like a 4x4 or something like that, rather than something that's small that's just sitting there. I will say the builder that I used had a small yard sign, and that, I don't know if that's the reason that my neighbor said, hey, I know they've been there for a long time. Who are you using again? But that's something that like you want to kind of think through, that it's similar to like your vehicles. If your vehicle just has like a magnet on the side of it, that's going to be seen as like, well, like they want to be a remodeling company when they want to, but they can just take the magnet off and they're no longer that. They're just a person in a truck. So make sure that your signs are comparable to the size of the work that you do. Next piece is going to be simplification of it. A lot of people way overdo their yard signs. They want to list out all the services that you provide, a QR code, all the, the years that you've been in business, all this stuff. But in reality, you have to think about how a yard sign is being used. Now, you can have yard signs where if you work a lot in neighborhoods, you can, neighborhoods where it's like walkable, you can do a little bit more on yard signs because people are going to be walking by. But if you're doing this on the side of a road where it's a busier road, the likelihood that somebody's going to walk by it versus drive by it, very different. So if you are doing more in the faster people driving by super quick, simplify it. Like you really just want to get by with like in the middle one, Dave Fox, bigger saying design, build, remodelers, and then just a website, and that's about it. But in the very least, at least having your company name and then what you do, and that's about it. Like as far as like design, build, remodelers kind of encompasses a lot. Really all we're trying to do is create like brand recall. So if somebody's like driving like, oh, what was that Dave F something? Like what was their name again? Oh, that's what it was. That makes it easy. But again, if it's a walkable neighborhood, you can get by with a little bit more, but I wouldn't do a lot more than really just adding in a couple more ways to get in contact with you. But realistically, again, we want simplicity here. If you are a remodeling company and a lot of the work that you do is more clean lines, it's simple, it's not chaotic, a yard sign or really any marketing material in general that feels chaotic or overly done is going to spill into that's probably the type of work that they do. So if you then look through like these three examples that I have up here, the Mac Miller, the Dave Fox versus the Longacre, like the cleanest one or the simplest one and probably who does the most clean and simple, I would guess would be the Dave Fox just because of the color of the sign, the simplicity of it, things like that. Last piece is the unique design work. So this is, you don't have to do this, but it's just like a cool way if you want to stand out a little bit more. It's kind of like a billboard that you drive by where they actually have like a bit of, it extends the billboard up or to the side a little bit more, but you can get fun with some unique designs. You then have to make this thing custom and probably find a carpenter in your area. But again, the biggest thing that I can say on the billboards or the yard signs is if you do bigger projects, make sure it's a bigger yard sign. Simplify it more than you think to simplify it. And if you want to get cute with it, you can do it. Just, that's going to have to be your yard sign moving forward. So I'll leave it at that. But biggest thing on yard signs is just make sure that you're getting them done and they are appropriate for the type of work and the style of work that you do. And last thing is going to be, I think it's the last thing, is going to be door hangers. Now, most door hangers are going to be, hey, buy our stuff. We don't want that. What we really want is we're going to be in the area. So, hey, sorry for the noise, coffee's on us. So what we want to be able to do is basically the same thing as that postcard, but it's like we're going to be in your area. We're going to be on site. If we're in the way, call us, let us know. And the biggest thing that we can do on this, again, is not to sell, is two things. One, put the project manager's business card, like just take a paper clip and attach it there because now they know who to call. And then second is if you give them like a local coffee shop or even a Starbucks gift card, this is going to be to the neighbors because what you're going to be able to basically do is now you make the homeowner that you're doing the project at seem like the hero who hired the good company. All right, so it's more about like just leaning into it, saying, thanks for putting up with us. We're going to be in the area. We're going to do everything we can to make it as easy as possible. But basically, like if stuff happens, please just call us. Here's the project manager on the job site. And then here is a gift card to use. When it comes to the gift card, think about what coffee costs. Don't give them a $5 gift card. Like you might as well just not do it at that point. My suggestion would be, if you're going to take out, I don't know, let's say $100 per project to be able to then get a gift card, I would probably spend $10 to $15 on the coffee shop gift card and do it. I'd rather have less people get this gift card rather than distribute it out to 100 people with $1 on the gift card because then it just feels cheap. So be realistic with it, but this is really more of a customer service thing. Again, here's the project manager on site, call them, and second, have a coffee on us, and you leave it at that. these people are smart enough where they want to get a hold of you and do work with you. They know where to find you. We don't have to say, hey, by the way, and if you're thinking about doing your project, we'd love to talk. They're smart. Let them figure it out on their own. So that's going to be your before photos, your door hangers, and your yard signs. Biggest thing again on these is that before photos, you want a lot of them, and then door hangers and yard signs, make sure that the yard sign is comparable to the work that you do, and the door hanger, just like with the postcards before, we're not selling, and we're really just saying we're going to be in your area. You have a question?
Yeah.
What's the question?
Mary says, many of our neighborhoods do not allow yard signs. What's your suggestion?
I don't really have one. I would figure out what it really means by you don't have a yard sign. I would then go more on the door hangers, because I've also heard it's no solicitation in this area. Like this door hanger, there's nothing on here that says buy my stuff. It's up to whoever they want it to be. If they want to complain, they can complain. I don't really have like a set solution for we're not allowed to do yard signs or door hangers or whatever that is. So on the yard side one, if the HOA is saying you may not do a yard sign, then you're probably just not, you're going to have to skip that one and just do maybe more on the other ones instead, would be my suggestion. All right, now let's go through ongoing construction. So demo's happening, the project is going. First, we're going to go with progress photos. The photos that I have up here are examples of bad photos. Here's what I mean. When we talk about progress photos, I'm thinking specifically around like on social media, what works, what doesn't work. The photos that I have shown are the left one and the middle one. It is a dirty job site. It is cluttered. It doesn't look super clean. When we think about what social media is meant to be entertaining. It's meant to be beautiful. It's meant to be the things that people are going there to kind of escape reality for a little bit of time. When you show something that is cluttered and chaotic like this, it does not, first off, it is not good for social media. And second off, this doesn't actually benefit the company in any way. All right. There's nothing that somebody goes, wow, like this company must be doing another project and they're really having a shop vac and a broom out. Like it doesn't do anything. So do not post those photos. It does not paint your company in a good light. On the right side, you have a porta potty. Unless you are the porta potty company, or you have a porta potty wrap that's like the coolest thing ever, and you have the Mona Lisa on it, and you have like, a nice way of capturing it, I would not show that either, because people are not going to hire you because they're like, oh, they go to the bathroom outside. Like, I'm going to spend my money with them. So progress photos, there still has to be a level of like beauty and aesthetic or curiosity or story really to them. None of these paint a story. None of them benefit anybody in any way. Don't bother posting them, because what's going to end up happening is that people are scrolling through your Instagram or your Facebook. They're going to see these and not really get like, are they nice and clean? Are they not clean? Like, you don't see a restoration hardware or interior designers or higher end like furniture companies showing like a disgusting factory floor, because that doesn't really fit what people really care to see. So skip those. Now with these are examples of like decent ones that you can do for during photos. So left side one is just going to be more of a close-up of the actual shower being installed. You have the tile right there. If you notice on that one, the lines we're trying to get them as parallel as possible. It's cropped in. You don't really know exactly what it is, but you know enough to see that one, it's not a dirty, disgusting mess. And then two, you have an understanding of like, this is probably going to be a shower going in. Middle one, same idea. There's a little bit of clutter. You've got your level right there, a brush down there as well. But overall, it's a clean space. It highlights that progress is happening. Biggest thing is that you want these to basically like tell a bit of a story or pique someone's curiosity, whereas they're scrolling, they see this and go, whoa, like I wonder what's going on, versus on this one, they're going to go, whoa, I wonder what's really going on in a negative way. So we want to have progress photos that are still nice and clean and show a nice job site. Far right one could just be a fun example of like, hey, project coming soon, where you're able to see a little bit of it through the actual like the hole where the handle goes in the door. But again, you want it to be framed decently well. You have the nice natural light coming in. You can see a little bit of it. What would have been cool is if we would have skated a little bit to the left, because to the right side of that, you can kind of barely see it where there's like wallpaper going in. That would have been a cool thing to look through and see that wallpaper. But either way, you want your progress photos to still be aesthetically pleasing as much as possible. They don't have to be NS Builders level where that's like professionally done, but you still want them to look nice. Another set of good progress photos, far right side, really just showing a nice clean wall that was just painted. And then left side, you're actually gonna have your like zip walls put up. If this was a cluttered mess behind it, I would say do not do it. But because it is nicer and cleaner, you can do it. Again, it's not like the sexiest thing, but it's more of like if you're just like itching to like post progress photos, you can still do this one. Last one, during, so far left side, you're gonna see the cutest little boy. This is gonna be like project still going on. You can see clutter in the far background. This is my house. You can see clutter in the far background, but it's so off the screen that it's like kind of harder to see. The actual lines of the patio are clean. Some of the families in there, so you can see like this is going to be coming, that kind of stuff. So that one will still work. And then on the right side with your, HEPA filter, like your dust protection, all that kind of stuff. Again, you can see a little bit of clutter on the actual island there on the countertop, but nothing extensive. So the focal, it's a lot of like when you first look at these photos, where is your eye being drawn? And in this case, on the right side, mine naturally is going to go to either like the plastic protection in the back or the HEPA filter off the far right because it kind of stands out. But it's also like nice lighting on this. So you can do nice ones as progress photos. Again, my big thing is like you can take these. Don't live and die on this hill. Most people take a ton of them and they're like super proud of them, but like people are not buying you for the during. They're hiring you because they want the after. Here's an example of same project. The left one is a good progress photo. The right one is not. The left one is good because even though it's all still framing, you can see, first off, it's cleaner compared to the right one. The focal points are going to be more of like the background and the skyline behind it, while on the right side, it's really just check out this framing that we did, right? It looks a lot more cluttered. You don't really have a nice background, while the left side one is a lot nicer. Same thing with people on the crew working. Left side, you can actually see somebody putting up this siding. It looks nice. The whole project is clean. It's kind of a cool shot where they're measuring it out. It shows craftsmanship. The right side is more of like, well, what is going on? Is he just taking a sticker off of that cabinet? We don't really know. So right side, not a good one. Left side, good one. So I just wanted to kind of show you like two similar projects. One of them is more acceptable than the other, but that's the idea of what we want to really be doing with progress photos. Again, don't kill yourself. Don't clutter your whole Instagram with progress photos because then you're going to look like the in progress company all the time. But if you're going to take these and post them, make sure they look as clean as possible. All right, now we're going to get into what actually does benefit you, which is going to be progress videos. So I'm going to show, and hopefully this is not going to crash, 3 different videos that explain. First one is like, talk about what goes on inside the walls. All right, I'm going to show you an example of what that would be.
This is why we walk every rough-in before it disappears behind the wall. This rough-in looked perfect, so until we actually tried to use it. The hot and cold controls were set too close together. Looks fine on paper, but in real use, there isn't enough room. So before anything gets closed up, we're pulling these back apart and respacing them. It's one detail, but it's the kind of thing that ruins a shower every single morning if you don't catch it now.
All right, so on that one, what you can really see is that he's just showing you like the behind the scenes stuff that a lot of remodeling companies do not get like credit for. So you're stopping and you're redoing stuff on your own. That's what he is showing, where he's not saying, oh, the client figured it out and then came back to us. We proactively figured it out and fixed it. So when you have something like this, now again, it's still, you don't see all this clutter and crap in it. It's still, it looks nice, looks clean. We still want to show that, but that's a good way to highlight something that if you are somebody that's doing a lot more attention to detail of things behind the wall or within the walls, this is a way to actually showcase that. Here's another one.
All right, let's talk about change orders. Change orders are a killer. They're a killer for the builder. They're a killer for the homeowner. Here's why. A builder, I don't make enough money on a change order. It stops a process, slows me down, adds time to the job. For the homeowner, it's an additional cost, one that they don't want to see. However, this homeowner and their designer had picked out this tile. It's a really beautiful tile. It's called cubic white. And the problem is that as we started doing the tile, the homeowner came in and saw it and said, you know what? I don't like that look at all. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tear this tile off this wall. We're gonna come in with porcelain slabs, and we're gonna porcelain slab this for a big one-piece look. Change orders. This is how they work.
All right, so on this one, the thing I wanted to highlight is when they go through change orders, all of you guys watching this have experienced a change order before. The thing that makes this one different is, first and foremost, he's actually on the job site explaining the exact thing that they're about to change. If he were to do this sitting in his truck or just at a studio or whatever, it's not going to have the same impact. So he's actually on the job site explaining what it is, showing you visually, and a lot of this is like the homeowner, if they're looking at like a remodeling company, most remodelers, they associate with job sites. So they're going to look for you to be on the job site. So this makes a lot of sense. It's a lot more visually appealing to them rather than if you're just sitting at like your desk talking through it. And then the other thing is he's explaining this in a way where he's not putting his process down. He's not saying, oh, you know, because we didn't do design, this homeowner made a bad decision. It's just being very matter of fact. Cause like, you know, hey, we started to install this. They didn't like this as much. So now we're coming in with something different. So it wasn't like a negative. It was more of just like a matter of fact of, hey, we're here to help. If we get through this and you don't like it, we can always make those updates later. All right. And the last thing that we're going to go through is filming detail that was hard to do. And this is if you are somebody that's like, you're very into your grout lines are perfect, or like when you do certain types of cabinetry, like you can get super close and like the lines are like really well done. That's what we want to focus on for these. So this is like if you're very into the craftsmanship side and that's what you're known for, you want to be able to not just show it, but also explain these.
You can't always hide the mechanicals on the outside of the building. We try to put them all on one side. I'll show you that side in another video. But we have some where they end up on a really important side of the building that is going to be, you know, visually impacted. So I'm off the living room here. I'm in the outdoor living space. And we had an ERV exhaust that we needed to address, as well as our intake. So the intake right here, you can see is all routed into our thermary. And that thermary is just on magnets, so we can take that panel off and then obviously address the actual intake spot. And then our exhaust is here on the Peterson cover brick. And we just took that and we slotted the brick open, and then everything behind it, I can get really close, you can see is all spray painted in the back. And it's slightly darker because that brick is wet from cutting it, but it will dry over obviously the course of the next few hours. But it's done that way so it doesn't stick out. It's not this really mechanical looking thing. It's just part of the architecture. And we try to be really cognizant of that when we have things that are, you know, going to be visually impacting to a space. So if I step back and I look at it, it really doesn't change what it looks like.
All right, so on this one, what was really cool was NS Builders does a lot, and if you follow him on Instagram, you have probably seen this time and time again. They put a lot of extra attention to detail in like all these little things like what he just went through. So to get credit for that, not just showing it, but then also on video explaining the thought process, why you did it, that's going to then put you in a different category when it comes to the craftsmanship of your work. So if that's something that you're like very proud of, just having it in like generic photos is not going to do it justice. You still want nice photos of each of these to like be able to show the craftsmanship, but to actually do it where, and you don't have to only do it during the project. Like this is like an after, but if you're doing things while the project is going on, that, you know, is a detail that's very hard to do, make sure that you're actually showing it and walking through it and explaining what you did, why you did it, and then what the benefit is. So what, why, and then the benefit at the end. That's going to then allow you to get credit for going above and beyond on those details, and the people that care about those little details are more likely to hire you if they watch these types of videos. So when you're going through it, those are the things that you really want to focus on. Progress photos, again, are just more of like, make sure that they're cleaner, they're simpler, but then social videos during the project, just to kind of recap, it's going to be things that are going on behind the wall. Again, it still needs to look clean. It still needs to not be all cluttered and crappy. Talking about changes, if you want to go through that as well, do it on the job site. It's going to make it much easier. And then last thing is, if you have details, whether the project's going on or not, that you want to highlight and explain, now is your time to do it. So again, those are all going to be, these videos are going to be better for the durings rather than the photos when it comes to like social media, because this is now more entertaining than simply just showing like, hey, check out this HEPA filter, or like, check out this like zip wall. Like it doesn't have the same appeal, rather than if you were to walk through and explain this thing that's not as sexy, if you will. So now we've already gone through pre-construction, day one, ongoing. Now let's go through job completion. So this is going to happen like when the job is done, and a lot of the assets that we're going to use for ongoing marketing is going to come from this. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on photography. I think this is actually going to be our next webinar that we do. We talk about it extensively with clients. We talk about it internally. We just put out a very lengthy full remodeler's guide on YouTube. We'll send it as like a recap link, when this webinar replay comes out. But basically, you're going to have 5 different types of photos. You're going to first, high-level overview, going to have your establishing shot. That's basically like the typical wide angle, saying this is where we are, just kind of giving people like a gauge for the space that you're in. So if you're working inside of a home, showing the full outside of the home, but also showing like the full kitchen to show the expansiveness of it. It's what most real estate photographers capture, but it's just a good, like, easy shot to walk into. Next, you're going to have your design shot. Design is going to be more of like setting the mood. So you're going to have more close-ups. Sometimes it's going to focus on the actual staging or finishing that's happening here. So you want design shots to kind of set the mood. Next, you're going to have your functionality shots. So if there's things that you did, kind of back to like that, what we just saw like that NS Builders, where it was, like those vents that he had to custom create, that would be like more of a functionality shot / craftsman. It can kind of bleed, but basically it's like if there's things that on the functionality of the space that you want to highlight, like you took out a load-bearing wall and you put in this really beautiful beam right there, you can do that because it's not necessarily that the actual shot or what's being photographed itself is like the beautiful, sexy thing, but you're going to want that because when it comes to featured project pages, you're going to want to explain why did you actually have to do this custom face on this dishwasher when you could have just put a dishwasher door on it. Why this? Next, you're going to have your craftsman shot. This is going to be kind of like that NS Builders one, now that I'm thinking about it out loud. Get close-ups of the things that you had to go above and beyond on, that if you're like, yeah, it's going to cost you $250 for this first floor remodel, and they're like, well, the other person's going to be, $220. What makes you different? If you're able to go like, we go above and beyond, but like, let me show you some of the craftsmanship here. Like, I got to ask you, like, do you care about having like clean grout lines, or like, is that just not really a big deal to you? Now you're starting to put in proof that like the craftsmanship is the thing that's going to hold up for you. So last shot is going to be your before and after. Again, this is very straightforward, but we just want to be able to show before, after, and those are your 5 shots. So you're establishing your design, your functionality, your craftsmanship, and then your before and after. I'll leave it at that, but I'll explain more of why photos are important and show you some examples. But again, if you want to know more about this, we'll put the link to the YouTube video out when this email comes out. Here's the same kitchen. Left side one was actually photographed by a professional photographer. Right side one was us taking it, putting it into ChatGPT and saying, how would a real estate photographer actually capture this project? Now, what you can see here, and again, this was more into that YouTube video, but it's the staging, it's the lighting, it's the angles. All of that makes a big difference. Because if you looked at, without looking at the left one, like if you're like, cover your left eye right now and just look at the right one, you're going to say like, okay, like that's fine. Like it's a nice looking kitchen. But then when you see the left one, it's more of a mood, right? You can see it feels more lived in. It feels more intentional, rather than the right one is not really there. This is how it then shows up. So if you were to put this as the background of like your web page, this is what a real estate photographer at a kind of a weird angle, it's kind of like a fisheye coming out, not stage, versus this. So if you see the difference between the two, this versus this, what it does is it really does highlight two different remodeling companies in the eyes of the consumer. So this, not great. It technically could work, but this is going to now put you in a different category than somebody who just has these types of photos. So again, photography is super impactful. I can't stress having a good photographer enough. I just hopped off a call with a prospect and they have amazing photos, and I was like, wow, this like makes our job so much easier to make all this stuff effective because of the intentionality behind it. We'll send that link out afterwards. I was going to go through Film to Space. Again, just for sake of time, I'm not going to do that just because each of these are going to take like 3 to 5 minutes each. But I will send this out so you can actually see, okay, now that the job is done, we have after photos. Those are good. What does a testimonial video look like? And then what does like a walkthrough video look like? Both of these, candidly, do all the other things first. Good videography is very freaking hard to do. I'll leave it at that. It's hard to do. I'll leave it at that. I'll send these out so you can watch them, but this is like, if everything else is ticking, then get into this. But professionally shot photos do wonders for you. And I would say getting, for the amount of money that you're going to spend on a testimonial video, that's going to be good. It's going to be a really good video. It's going to help you as long as it's good. You could get 3 really nice projects photographed. That's going to do even more for you. And this is as a company that used to fly all over the country and capture these testimonial videos. We have experience doing it. We know what good looks like. But professionally shot photos are worth their weight in gold compared to this. And these are so much harder to get done. Other thing that you can do is instead of just doing a photo shoot, actually having a reveal party. I did a whole podcast. This is one of our clients, Vaught Construction out west, and at the end of some of their larger projects, they will actually hire a chef to come in and like they DJ it and like they just make it like a big housewarming party for like the whole neighborhood to come in, because the neighborhood's kind of also just lived for 3 to 6 to 18 months of like this big project that's going on, and they're like wondering what's it look like, all that kind of stuff. Like invite them in and do it in a way that it feels like warm and welcoming. If you can show people using the space, that is awesome. We actually, one of them, a guy that used to work here now does all the sales for a higher end design build firm here in Charlotte, and he's actually had it where they brought in like a chef that when they finished a kitchen remodeling project, they had an at-home chef come in and do one of those like cooking classes for the couple plus a couple of their friends in that kitchen. Cool thing is that she's able to go, wow, what a great kitchen. Like this is how you use it and that kind of stuff. So it's actually a very good way to then get people back into the space that you just did. But reveal parties, again, it's going to take energy and effort. If you're a big network and like gregarious, outgoing person, this may be right up your alley. If you're more introverted, this may be a little bit harder. If you're gonna, my biggest suggestion is if you're gonna do it well. Don't skimp on, hey, we got a bunch of Lunchables, take yours and go inside. Make it nice, make it a vibe, as Gen Z would say. But like, if you're gonna do it, I would do it on like 1 or 2 projects a year and go big, rather than trying to knock it out every single time and having it be done halfway. So we've got launch party, photography, testimonial video, and walkthrough video that we've done. This, up until this point, is as the project is happening from the very beginning to the very end, this was all being done. So at this point, you should have like 12 different things that you have going, and it feels like a lot. But now this is where we really start to kind of put it all together and now make this thing work for us more on repeat. So the biggest thing that I can highlight is this thing called a featured project page. Featured project pages, what they really are is think of it as like a project case study. And what it's going to be is that this is going to highlight an individual project of yours and tell the backstory to the project. So why did the family actually want this thing done? Where did it happen? How long did it take? What was the price point of it? We're then going to highlight and walk through the like design renderings and step-by-step and all these different things that go into it. And then we're going to actually show the actual final setup of it. And these featured project pages are like the hub of everything that we do here at CGN. They're that impactful. But the biggest thing here is that like everything should point back to it. Because in reality is, if you're a higher end remodeling company, nobody cares about you until they actually see work on your site or work that you have done that feels like, oh, I want that in my home as well. You could be the nicest person, but they're not hiring you for customer service. They're hiring you because they do not like their space and they want it to look nicer. And if you're the one that can guide and shepherd them there, perfect. But we want to make sure that people are going to, and understand that people are going to build trust and rapport with your projects before they build trust and rapport with you. And that is actually the goal of this stuff, is to take your projects, give them a story, give them a background, educate and nurture people. And that happens on this featured project page. Again, we did a whole webinar on this exact thing. So I won't go through more of that, but I want to highlight how do you then take the assets that we've already done and be able to build into this. Because for this, you're going to need, for the featured project page, the after photos that you just took. You're going to need the design renderings and the floor plans that you had at the beginning of the project that you set aside. You're going to want your before photos. If you had to just do something special during the project, like you set up a temporary kitchen, or we had a client that, like, homeowner said, I'm moving out for 2 weeks. Can you get this thing done in 2 weeks? I said, sure, we're going to have to work over the weekend. They made that happen. You'd want to highlight that thing as well. So a lot of the visual assets that you captured from the very beginning all the way through the very end then get compiled into this. So that's where your renderings come back in. That's where your before photos, maybe even some of your during photos, if they are story driven enough, but really the after photos are going to live on this page. And then everything that you do from a marketing perspective is going to drive back to this as much as possible. The first thing that we want to talk through is going to be your social posts. What I have here, all three of these are ads. But it's the same thing on the organic or the free side for social media. Number one thing, people go, oh, what do I post on social? Do I need to do all these things? The reality is, if you have, like, the left side one, if you just have, like, the photos that you just took from the professional photographer that we did at the very end of the project, you're going to want to just show that. Show off the project and give a little bit of a recap of what was just done. So this is a home. The family wanted natural light in every room of their new Hillsborough home, so we built in 3 separate wings. If you click expand, it's then going to basically show you a little bit more of the story. And then this would normally look a little bit different on organic, but you're going to be able to actually scroll through the photos and actually see more of the home that was just done. So what you're now doing is your Instagram is now going to be more with finalized project photos that look great with a little bit of a story. And then if you have those featured project pages, what you're able to do is add the link to that specific featured project page in your bio, like in Instagram or on Facebook. And then you're actually able to say, like, if you want to see more, click our link in bio. So that's how you can take the finalized project photos and actually then get people back to your website, because ultimately the goal is not to have them just go through Instagram. The goal is to get them back to your website, because the website's meant to do a lot more than just show off pretty photos. It's meant to highlight what you do, why you do it, pricing, all that kind of stuff. All right. Now, the right two are going to be ones that are really more focused on ads themselves. The left one is an ad as well, but the ads themselves are, again, still story driven, but we got to get a little bit cute on them of, like, Vault was really good at 2 things. One, doing all the little things right. So if you were to click more on this actual caption, you would realize that like the V looking thing in the door, that's actually the bird's eye view. Actually, you can see it right here on the left side. Right down there, it's the same home. This is actually the same bird's eye view footprint of the home itself. So they wanted to match this up. So if you then click more, it would explain that. On the right side, the other tagline they go through is more of like positioning is like, we build what others won't, because they like to cater to architects as well. So same idea as you're just trying to build a little bit of brand awareness around the areas that you want to work in using ads. All of these ads, so this first one, if you click on that, that takes you, because like the beauty of an organic post is it's free. The downside of an organic post is Facebook is really good at business, and they know that if you're going to, as a business, if you want your stuff to be seen, they're going to charge you. So you can spend all this time and energy putting out this most amazing post, but if you then put $5 a day behind it, you're going to get a lot more views over to it. That is the goal. So they're going to charge you for it. It's okay. You just got to kind of play the game a little bit. But on this, what we're not doing is we're not saying we built this beautiful home. Here's the story. Call us, buy my stuff. all we're doing is we're sending these people, if they click on learn more, it takes them right back to the specific project page around this exact project. And that is the idea here, is that what you're doing is you're really taking these project pages and you have them for the great projects that you have in the great areas, all that stuff. It's all story driven. And all we're really doing is dropping little pins around where that actual home was. And we're saying, we just did this killer project up the road from you. Here's some of the things that we did. If you want to check it out, go check it out. And then when they click on that link, it's going to take them directly to that page. Now, the difference here is it's not selling them, and what you're doing is you're really building what's called top of funnel. But in other words, this is like you're setting up a bunch of mini yard signs in the areas that you want to be in. So when you leave a project, you take that yard sign out, now you're gone. But you're able to leave a digital yard sign over and over and over in that area, and that's how you want to then establish all over town around your actual projects, saying, we just did this project in this area. And again, the whole point is not to generate a bunch of leads from it. It is really just to recognize or establish yourself as, this is who we are. We did this type of work in this area. That's about it. People are smart. They're going to see you over and over and over. And if you did like a really killer, I don't know, let's say you finished off a basement because you're in this great neighborhood, all these high-end homes, and the builder who did the whole development just did an unfinished basement. If you show off one of those project pages for a basement that you finished that looks really nice, the likelihood that somebody else in the area who's also thinking about getting their basement finished is going to see it is pretty high. And again, now you're in the running for this stuff. So you really just want to set up a bunch of mini billboards all over town by taking these project pages and driving social media traffic back to it. And it makes it nice and easy. And again, you can do this for like $5-10 a day and just kind of like let it sit. And then when you get a new project in that area, either then stack that on top, so now they're seeing two different types of ads, or replace it if it's been played out for a while. But basically, this is your way of taking those project stories and not letting them die. That's the idea. Google Business Profile is another great one. So those featured project pages, again, what you can do is you can actually take these and post them to your Google Business Profile. They work really well. Google likes them. People like them. You want this thing to be really interactive, so it's just another way that you can drive this home a little bit more. You also want to take some of the photos from it and upload it into your Google Business Profile to keep that thing nice and fresh, but pretty straightforward. One of the cool things that Google is really starting to do more of, and we've actually had to shift how we've approached marketing here with all the AI stuff, where because of all this AI slop and crap and stuff like that, Google is really cracking down where they want to see more realistic and more real experience stuff, meaning if you have a project walkthrough that you put out with like a full explanation, nobody else out there has that, right? Because like ChatGPT doesn't have your exact project that you just did. Only you have those photos and you have that story and things like that. So what that is that's going to really help establish that you're unique and different. And because of that, what we've actually seen is on some of our clients, not all of them, and Google just did this on their own, but they will actually then add onto the Google Business Profile automatically links to these individual projects. And they'll say, if you want to see some of their projects, click a link below. And they've listed out like a half a dozen of these projects. And it even says below it, see their featured project pages, which is like, featured project page is like a CGN term. It's not like a super well-known one. I mean, I'm sure other people use it as well, but it's not like Google says, oh, this is what this page is. So it's cool to see Google picking up on this because it shows they really care about these pages as well. Another thing that you can do with these are going to be print them as a brochure. So if you have a project story, all that sort of stuff, the brochures for these are going to be taking the project and just doing a little bit of a story around it and then just getting it printed out in a nice like bifold. We have done this in the past for clients where we took this, printed them out, and then mailed them to past customers. It didn't produce anything from it. And what we tried and what we learned was we kind of try to like balance a mix of like branding with like direct response, which is like, like we're going to mail you something, give us money back. In reality, the way that I would use these is I would have these printed out for your best projects. And then what you want to do is you can see, kind of like if you looked in closer, you can scan the QR code, and as you could probably guess what page it's going to go to, it's going to go to this exact project's featured project page. So the entire goal of this brochure is to get people to scan it and actually then get back on your website and actually look through that project and then look through your other stuff. I would really have these printed out for projects that are great projects, but use them more for when you're doing like an in-home estimate as like a nice leave behind, to then basically have them like leave it on their countertop. If somebody else wants to scan it, they have it. Or if you have like a showroom, just having some of these set up on like that little plastic like card holder, if you will, to be able to highlight, this is a couple projects that we have for people to kind of take with them and go. So I would not do the mailers that we have done in the past. It was a pain in the butt. It doesn't have the impact that we thought it was going to have just for the price point. It's better just to probably print out 100 of these for each of your great projects. And then as your in-home estimates, where it's like, hey, we're also doing, if this is same footprint reimagined, basically if you're going to go in and do like a pull and replace kitchen estimate, this would probably be a good one because it's very relevant to that exact homeowner. And then it has that QR code that takes them right back to the featured project page. Next big thing is going to be creating blogs based off of that one individual project. So what this looks like is, and this is a big shift that we're having to do here at CGN, is that as SEO and the AI search and all that stuff impacts, being able to go back and use those featured project pages as information for blog content. Blogs still work. They're still very relevant. They're still very helpful. They still help you build authority. But basically what you can do is if you look at each of these blogs, you're going to have what actually drives the price of a kitchen remodel, how upfront design prevents change orders mid-construction, how to know what's happening on your remodel each day, what a remodeling warranty covers. Basically what you're able to do is use elements of this topic to then write blog posts. So if it's like, this, we talked about pricing, great. Use a whole pricing blog that talks about what it costs to remodel a kitchen, and within that you can highlight what materials and appliances cost the most, what did a $93,441 kitchen include, which is this exact kitchen. So you can highlight what that looks like. What's the selection and how's it priced? Like all that stuff. So you can actually highlight a little bit more into like, and just using like the information from all the stuff that happened within this project to then come up with like, again, blog content. So we have now shifted into having to like doing like client interviews where we're like talking more about these things to be able to get what's called information gain. Long story short, that's like SEO nerdy stuff that's more impactful now than it was really 5 years ago. But with that said, you can use the things from these projects that if you were to walk somebody around this project that doesn't really know this project itself, and they go and they're asking you a bunch of questions, you can then turn those into blog posts that are going to benefit you long term. Next piece that you can do is then also, and by the way, on these blogs, you're then going to then link within them back to that featured project page, because the stuff that you're going to be talking about are like, you're going to actually give examples of like who runs your project day to day. Hey, we actually have 3 different project managers. In fact, our one project manager, Rick, did this one project, and when you go to this project, you can actually see how long it took. Here's a couple things that they did to keep it dialed in. So what you're really doing is you're using those featured project pages as like linked examples within these blogs to then prove what you're saying is actually true. Featured project page, mailers. What a great idea. Scan the QR code, it's going to take you right back to that featured project page. But basically what you can do is, when it comes to mailers, this is going to come out after the fact. I would send these out to past customers. All right, I wouldn't send this out to just a generic neighborhood. They don't know you. You want to get back into the top of mind for past customers. So it's, what I would suggest is first doing it in a non-cheesy way, which means no postcard. I would actually get whatever project you just did, which is that same project we keep looking at, get those photos actually printed out. Go to CVS, go to Walgreens. You can go on Walmart.com, and for like 17 cents a photo, you can get these printed. But the whole point of this is we're trying to do things in a little bit of a nostalgic way that's not done anymore. And this is where nice printed out photos can come in. And I would just have a nice actual, like, in this, I think kind of mirrors like the watercolor of this. But either way, you can have just a nice thinking of you and then get cute. Truth is, we're thinking about your house as well. We're starting to map out Q1 of 2027. and we wanted to reach out to past clients first. If you've been kicking around an idea for the next project or even a what if you keep coming back to, this is a good time to talk about it. The photos are from a kitchen we just finished in Fox Chapel, which you can see it, Fox Chapel. It's all the same one. Same footprint as before, just completely reimagined. Scan the QR code to see the whole project. Hope all is well. Andrew and the team at ACAN Interiors. Now, the whole point of why we're printing out these photos is because, think about it, like when you get photos, like you don't take them immediately, throw them away like you do with like a normal direct mail piece. So you're going to throw these other things away, but with these photos, you're probably going to leave them out on the countertop for a day or 2 days before you throw them away. But in that day or 2 days, you're now starting to think through more of like the what ifs associated with it. So our whole goal here is just to, in an effective, scalable way, just get back top of mind with past customers. That is really the idea here, and that's really it. So again, not meant to be a, hey, we just did this project, buy my stuff. It's just more of like, if you're in the market for this, we'll reach out to past customers. By the way, here's a really sick project that we just did. If you want to scan the QR code to see the whole thing, go ahead and check it out from me. And that's really it. All right. Back to those project photos that you need from it. And the last thing is just going to be emailing your list, right? You can do it as simple as just saying, hey, we just did this project in this area. It actually won this one award. Here's a quick photo. If you want to see the whole thing, click this link. And as you guessed it, it's going to go right back to that exact feature project page. So email is, there's a lot of pain in the butt stuff that has to happen with like setting up the right domain name or domain and all that kind of stuff. But either way, you're able to take your project and the project photos and guide people back to it. So as you can tell, that feature project page for the ongoing marketing becomes a bigger and bigger deal. Now with these, I would probably send these out once a month to once a quarter, if you will, maybe once every 6 months if you're just like getting your foot in the door started with this stuff. These start to candidly become more of like a logistical thing of like, okay, we got to get these photos printed out at Walgreens, which we haven't done in 7 years. And who's going to stuff them and send them out to our past customers? So if you're like a solo operator, unless you love direct mail, this is going to be harder, but this is probably a good thing for like, you know, like an office manager or somebody to like help with to be able to drive these things out the door. Same thing with the emails. You know, with email, it's less about like doing this once a year. It's more about doing this on a consistent monthly basis to be able to show that you're doing projects consistently. So if you do all that correctly, and again, pick and choose this stuff, you should start to build up these mini marketing campaigns around the projects because you're actually going through and highlighting beforehand expectations, the renderings, and the postcard to say, we're coming up, get ready for us. Then we're doing our before photos, which we're going to take a lot of photos of, and getting the door hangers and the yard signs in the areas that we want to be in to basically put plant our flag and say, we're here, deal with it. Next piece is going to be your progress photos. Don't go crazy on these. It's not as sexy as you think it is. You're going to love them, but clients are not going to love them as much. But social video is going to be really big. I would definitely highlight that, especially walking through and showing off things that you would normally not see in the after photos. Then we want to get into, if you want to do a launch party, do it, but make sure that you're going to go big on that. Otherwise, it's going to feel like a checking in the box, and it feels awkward for everybody involved. So go big, or just, I guess, stay home. Photography, whole video on that. I will send that out. I cannot stress that enough. If you take one thing away from this entire thing, it is get great photography. That is worth its weight in gold. I cannot stress that enough, but again, it's only why we spent 4 straight weeks building out a YouTube video to explain all the things that you need to know about photography. Testimonial walkthrough videos. If you get everything else done on this list and you feel good about it, then get into those. But again, that's going to be like the hardest thing to capture. And then last thing is featured project pages. They're huge. They are the #2 most traffic pages on the websites that we build. You can drive a lot of traffic back to them. They are like every time that I've added like a new page, if I think this thing's going to work really well, at the end of the day, what people really care about most is seeing your project, seeing one that they get excited by, and learning more about the backstory of what happened. And then you can use the assets and the page itself within your Google Business Profile, social media posts and ads, direct mail, brochures, email, blogs, all of it. And if you do all that correctly, you will be golden and you will love what you are building at your company. But again, pick and choose these things because it's going to be hard to do all of them at once because it is a big task. So do it all. You'll be set. Very helpful, very helpful. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Perfect. John, good to see you. See you Friday. Super helpful. Thank you. All right, perfect. So sounds like it was helpful. If you guys have any other follow-up questions, please just reach out, let us know. I'll send an email out with the YouTube video. I cannot stress enough how helpful that is. Claude and I have some work to do. I built some of the stuff out with Claude, like as you could tell. The biggest thing with Claude is if you do higher end stuff, the design elements of it aren't as strong. So just making sure that you look at this as the lens of kind of like how everybody now is like picking up on like, oh, that's AI slop of how you're writing it. We want to get away from that as much as possible. So definitely use it. It's great. I use it a lot. I used it for a lot of these slides, but you just want to tweak it a little bit, but you're good. All right, perfect. If that's it, everybody, good luck. Stuff's great. If you want to talk about us doing some of this stuff for you, there's certain things that we say do in-house. Some of these things saying pass off to somebody else. More than happy with chatting through it. You know where to find me. Go on our website. But otherwise, we'll send you the recap tomorrow with the links to the YouTube video and the slides, and we'll go from there. See you all.